Now, our first guest tonight wears many performance hats. He's an actor, a spoken word poet, and he's also a teacher.
He's here tonight to share with us some of his words. Very fitting then that he goes by the stage name WordPlay.
WordPlay, right? You know, you are really not what I expected. Sorry. Is it my pearly white, almost straight teeth? Do they clash with the twisted connotations of my bonnet curls? As wise words hurled in eloquent soliloquies slide in seamless symphony from my loomed lyrical instrument. Somehow, unimpeded by my thick African lips, or is it my sun-kissed skin that confuses you so? As your glance waits to dance to the rhythmic hype of stereotype, and your two terrified feet try in vain to keep the free-flowing beat of an original mind, find in my brown eyes the colorless surprise of ethereal majesty, and watch it mock the artificial travesty of your expectation. It's a small piece of one of my pieces.
Wow, a wonderful introduction there by WordPlay. WordPlay, good evening and welcome to the studio.
Good evening and thank you very much.
Thanks
Pleasure
for
to be
coming.
Here. Thank you.
That piece that you just performed is called Identity. It sounded very much like you were talking to yourself, and indeed you describe it as misconceptions about me.
Yes.
Elaborate on that. What does that mean?
Basically means, for example, if I buy a hoodie, I'm a customer. If I wear a hoodie, I'm a thug. And it's just about how people will misconceive or misperceive, sorry, who I am, just from before I've even said a word. So it's just about me trying to tell people a little bit about myself in a few words.
You certainly seem to be in your comfort zone when you're performing. I guess a lot of this confidence, if I understand correctly, came from, well, the inspiration came from one of your pieces called Sponge.
Yes.
And that came from an incident on a train.
It did.
So tell us more about that.
It did. Okay. When I was a child, I always thought I could be really good at poetry if anybody was actually interested in it. And then when I grew up, there was an incident on the train where it was a very packed train, rush hour. A woman bumped into me. Then she started having a go at me. You know, I guess she was really just in one of those moods. And rather than, I was 18 at the time, rather than a torrent of expletives, what actually came to my mind was, like a sponge takes in water, so I've soaked up the abuse. And then I just thought, whoa, this is something I should try and complete. This is something I should try and pursue. I obviously have something with words, and see how I can play with them, wordplay.
Well, it's interesting you say that an incident on a train, something that you describe as abuse, ended up inspiring you to write. And many poets, I guess, would say that they need a bit of quietude to sit down and put pen to paper. Do you also find some inspiration in that, in being just quiet around yourself and drawing in those experiences?
Definitely, definitely. Sometimes I'll simply be sitting in my room reading a book, and I'll read a line and it will inspire something within me to try and write a piece, or I'll be meditating and just things will come to me and it's like, okay, well, these words have come to me for a reason. There's something inspirational in here. Let me see what I can do with it. Let me see how much fun I can have. And then I get the opportunity to go on stage and just really express myself. I love it. So
you take motivation from different aspects. And I understand you were in Ghana recently, which was a very moving trip for you, and you met some of the children there.
Yes.
How was that?
Well, I performed at a charity event for a Comfy Trust. And I was asked if I would go to Ghana and share some of my skills with the people there. And I said, of course, how could I say no to that? So I went to Ghana over the summer and I was teaching English through drama and games. So just working with the young people, getting to know them, having whole conversations through experience, just through fun, and then trying to help them learn as much English as possible while at the same time just trying to make sure they had a memorable experience, and that I did too. It was amazing, the differences between, I mean, everybody says it, but everybody will say it if they go and experience it, the differences between the haves and the have-nots. It's amazing, it's moving, and I thought I would go there and be happy I went and happy to be back, because obviously we have many things here that just aren't there. But when I was there, I could have seen myself living there, the people, the
well,
culture.
let's talk about that experience because Africa is obviously such a captivating continent.
Yes.
What is it about it that makes it so special for you?
Well, firstly, I'm just happy you said continent. Very few people call it that. I mean, we all know it's a continent, but most people think it's one place where everybody's the same. There are so many different cultures, but what made it so important for me was my first time in Africa, and the history. Obviously, I'm a student, not obviously, but I'm a student of history. So I've done a lot of research, and just to be out there experiencing the continent that I'm from for the first time. I mean, my family is originally from Nigeria, but the opportunity to go to Ghana was there for me, and something in me just said, you can't possibly say no. And now it's something I will always remember. I'm going back next year to do some more work out there. We helped build a school as well as my teaching out there.
So your work isn't just limited to Africa. Just yesterday you were in the Hammersmith Lyric Theatre working with disabled young children, wasn't it?
Yes, I work with lots of different groups, church groups. I've worked with people aged 5 to 85, disabilities, youth offenders, and my work yesterday was one of the most moving experiences I've ever had. I was working with a group of both able-bodied and disabled children, mentally and physically, in different degrees, and we were doing Homer's The Odyssey. So originally that was a poem, and with my skills as a poet, I worked under 2 great directors. They were drama and movement directors, and my role initially was simply support, but upon seeing my skills, they asked me to work with the young people and workshop some poetry with them. Incredible. So it really was so that they could express themselves through the poetry and tell the story in a more modern, poetic form. It was...
Well, Elliot, thank you so much. That's been
Thank you.